Hi, everybody. Here are your news and notes as the Browns get set for their playoff game on Sunday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers at Heinz Field, a game you'll be able to see on Channel 3. Another day has come during the practice week and the lead up to the game on Sunday night, and the Browns did not practice once again today. In fact, the Browns had another positive test for COVID-19. Safety Ronnie Harrison has tested positive, so he's out of the game coming up this weekend, and probably, if the Browns advance, going into the next week, which is a tough break once again for the player because Ronnie Harrison had just been able to get back healthy once again and played last week in the final game of the regular season, which got the Browns into the playoffs by beating the Steelers. He had recovered from a shoulder injury, and now this. He is out. They did get two players back. Linebacker B.J. Goodson is back, and that's important. That will help the Browns out a great deal. He's the middle linebacker. He's the guy that gets them lined up. He's the communicator. Remember, there are young linebackers strewn across that defense for the Browns. So Goodson, who has given the Browns a really good season, it will be important and very beneficial to get him back. Andrew Sendejo, who, of course, was on the COVID-19 reserve list, he is back too. Joe Woods, the Browns defensive coordinator, in his discussion with the media on this Thursday said they don't know yet if they're going to have Denzel Ward back. They don't know if they're going to have other defensive back, Kevin Johnson, back. Both were, of course, out last week on the COVID list. That's the COVID situation. And remember, this is just Thursday. Once again, you worry, will the Browns get hit with more positive tests and then more contact tracing coming up on Friday? We'll have to wait and see on that. Over in Pittsburgh, it is a completely different story. The Steelers are getting all kinds of players back from COVID reserve and from injuries. They're going to be about as healthy for this playoff game as they have been since really early in the season. Completely different. The other difference is they're getting a full week of practice in. The other news note coming from Pittsburgh is Heinz Field will not have a lot of fans in it at all. As a matter of fact, they had hoped to have a certain number of fans allowed in for the playoff game, and that has been wiped out. Instead, there'll be friends and family of the Steeler players. They will be allowed into the game, but that will be it. So the crowd will be really minimal at best for the game coming up on Sunday. Advantage, I guess, for the Browns. Those are some of the news and notes. Alex Van Pelt, kind of a funny story today on a week where you need a little bit of lightness, okay? I mean, it's devastating that Kevin Stefanski is not going to be able to coach the team nor call the plays for the Browns as their offensive coordinator, and Van Pelt will do that on Sunday night. He said today his goal is to call a good game, but the other thing in his mind is he hopes he doesn't make a couple of bad calls and that Kevin Stefanski is sitting at home and puts his foot through his television set. Like, what are you doing? Okay, light moment. We need it. It's been a tough week since Tuesday when all of this COVID news came down to the Browns. I'm going to wrap it up this way with something to think about as we get set for this game at Heinz Field. And that is that the NFL talks about a competitive advantage or a competitive disadvantage. So hear me out on this. Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski is not allowed to communicate with his team on Sunday night once the team leaves the locker room to go out for the start of the game. He can't communicate at all with anybody on the team, players or assistant coaches. No electronic devices, no connections feeding in his thoughts from Cleveland to Heinz Field. The next time he would be able to talk to his players would be immediately after the game. Why? Well, the NFL feels that could be a competitive disadvantage in the game, a competitive disadvantage for the Steelers. No, not blaming the Steelers at all in this, but that's the scenario that our head coach can't communicate at all for the game under that topic of competitive disadvantage. The Browns have not practiced 1 minute so far on the field for a playoff game coming up on Sunday night. Competitive disadvantage? I would say yes, which leads me to still wonder, how do you play a playoff game when the team consistently throughout the week keeps getting positive tests and cannot practice for the game? Think about it. That blows my mind. I don't know if I'm going to sleep tonight. I'm Jim Donovan for WKYC.com.